Introducing a lineup of international award-winning and talented indie authors, only on the Writers' Corner live show. And welcome to the Writers' Corner live show, your weekly water cooler for authors and readers. We feature award-winning authors, New York Times and USA Today bestsellers, but also international indie sensations. In today's episode, we're going to take a closer look at the challenges that authors face and some strategies by my co-host, Mary Elizabeth Jackson, for survival. Don't go away. We'll be right back with the Writers' Corner live show.
Imagine a world where the lines of reality blur with the fantastical. Embark on journeys from humble beginnings to the pinnacles of literary greatness. On the Writers' Corner, we delve into the lives of unique wordsmiths, known for their compelling storytelling. They are artisans who craft fantastical realms, etched in our memory long after the final page is turned. Every tale begins with a single word, a single idea. Authors create sensations that keep you on the edge of your seat. Witness how they transform setbacks into stepping stones, use refusals to spark growth, and turn rejections into catalysts for new inspiration. Witness the diversity in writing as it gives birth to a vast array of genres, from drama to mystery to children's stories, fantasy, and reality. Join us as we uncover sources of inspiration and the magic that defines the author's craft. Find out how authors breathe life into their characters and meticulously craft narratives and plots that captivate readers. Get a sneak peek into upcoming works and join us as we celebrate literary greatness only on the Writers' Corner. We don't just celebrate best-selling Amazon and New York Times authors, but also indie authors. Join us on the journey from the birth of a tale to the creation of a masterpiece, only on the Writers' Corner live show. Stay tuned.
If you're just joining us, then welcome to the Writers' Corner live show. If you are not yet following us at any of our social media channels, please feel free to do so, because if you do, you'll get a notification when Mary and I go live. So if you haven't met me yet, I'm Bridgetti Lim Banda from Cape Town in South Africa, and my co-host is in the US, but she happens to be my guest today on our show, the Writers' Corner live show. And our live stream is made possible by Creative Edge, BeLive Media, and also with immense gratitude to BSN, your all-in-one entertainment revolution, for making it possible for our show to be on Roku, Amazon Fire, Google TV, and soon Apple TV. So do join BSN for a world of boundless creativity. Now, if you don't know my co-host and friend, Mary Elizabeth Jackson, she is a very, very passionate author. She's a certified special needs and disabilities advocate, and she draws on her own experience as a mother of 3 children, including 2 on the spectrum. Mary is also the owner of E&L Publishing and a manager of Sisters J Music, and she's very, very committed to amplifying underrepresented voices. In addition to everything that she does, she's a podcaster, live streamer, speaker, educator, ghostwriter, and a songwriter. So without any further ado, let me welcome my friend and co-host, Mary Elizabeth Jackson, to the show as my guest today.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Mary. Welcome to our show.
I know, thank you. I always love the intro. And so it was really funny kind of being on this side of it, because it is beautiful. And it really does, the music gets you ready and you're like, hey, something really cool is coming up,
Well, you know what? We've been wanting to do this for a really long time now. And, I think it's so important that we share your journey because, the author journey isn't always glamorous. It isn't always easy. And a lot of people don't know that even best-selling authors have gone through quite a journey to get to the point where they are. And there's, people on New York Times bestsellers will tell you that the journey wasn't always as easy. It's like being married, everybody makes a big rah-rah about the wedding. But, being married is fantastic, but there's also hard parts about it. And I think it's important to share the hard parts of being an author, not to discourage people, but I think maybe from the perspective to encourage them and say, hey, you're actually not alone, So your journey has been marked by lots of highs, but also a ton of lows. And, you've written best-selling anthologies. You've had challenges with publishers, not once, not twice, I think 3 times, correct me if I'm wrong. How did you stay motivated during these difficult times, and especially when your books couldn't be sold, literally?
Those are really good questions, Bridgetti. And the times when I didn't have a publisher or a home, I would call it, I felt they felt homeless, and there's so much a part of my life that I felt incomplete. I know that may sound kind of weird because they're material. They're not like, food and water and things that we need in our families, but they become, so much of you is invested in whatever project you're doing or the book you're doing or where your books have come from. For me, I guess I'm so invested in my children's series because of the birth of them, where they came. I birthed a child very late in life who we didn't know if he was going to make it and be okay, and if I would make it after the birth. And so I think that's one of the reasons I've been so passionate about these books surviving. And the journey has not been anything close to what I ever imagined, nor have I heard from another author. And along my journey has been my co-writer, Thornton. So I have to include him in our little small group of 2, even though I know everyone has, other authors have had a hard time. Everyone's journey is different. And you meet a lot of individuals along the way, I think that encourage you. I mean, I've had times of just wanting to give up and say, and Thornton and I were just talking about this the other day. Sometimes you go, is this even worth it? Should I be doing this anymore? Is this my path? Is this what God wants me to do? And if not, then I'll just put them away. But I've continued going because I feel like, especially this children's series, has got a life to it and it's got purpose. And I'm also a lover of writing and a lover of reading. And I always dreamt growing up that I would be, I'd hope to be published. I used to write lots of poetry. I've never published any of that, but, I guess after you get done being in that valley of, depression or, feeling like you're going to give up, or maybe this is just not meant to be. And you come back up from that, then you get that fire again you want to continue. And for me, I don't think that's ever gone away, to just say, I'm done with what I'm doing. And also, you have to have support around you, because there are times when you don't want to go on about it and you just want to put it up. But I think that we're all intended to be creative beings, right, on this earth. And so that flows through us, and it needs a channel and a place to go. And when you're channeling and words are coming to you and you're writing, I just feel like there's a place for them out there in the world. Sometimes they're meant just for you privately in a journal, maybe, or just meant to be spoken to someone. But I think the majority of the time, there are things that are meant to be out in the world, like some of the anthologies that you have been in with live streaming and entrepreneurship. And those words need to be out there in the world for someone else to hear, to read, to give them hope, that, hey, they're on the right path, or don't give up. But, the journey is so long, because also I wrote it in 2013, the very first one after my son was born. And I sat on it for 2 years just thinking I was going to give it to my kids. And I kept getting this nudging. I needed to do something with it. And when I finally surrendered to that, not even knowing at that time what to do, who to turn to, where to go even, doors began opening up. And so at that point, when I look back on my life, I know I did the right thing by listening to that nudging and that voice telling me, yes, you need to get these published. And it was very exciting when the first book got published, because it came out in February 2017. And then 3 months later, it won a Gold Literary Maxi Award, which was just even kind of more of a celebration of the writing and the journey and what it was meant for. These books were intended to empower children and empower families and empower reading time. They were, my son came into the world and couldn't swallow, and he had other issues. He's a miracle child to have survived. And I survived after his birth, that was questionable for about 10 days. So the book is about the books, because there's 3 in the series, but it's about accepting who you are, and that we as mothers love our children, even if they come into the world with challenges or disabilities, and the world says they're broken. We say, no, they're not broken. We see the beauty that's still there. And that's the purpose for this, is to talk to kids about what they can do, why they are special. And each book has got empowering words in it. And I was just reading to 3 and 4-year-olds yesterday, and it was so much fun. And I was making them say the I am statements with me. And some of those are big words for little ones, so it wasn't fabulous. I am fabulous. It was, I am fabulous, or whatever they could say, but they still get the meaning, behind that it's an empowering tool for them. And I think we have to teach our children that very young in life. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. Now, you did touch a little bit on the anthologies, that, some of them we both in the same anthology, and some you've done on your own. How have being involved in collaborations like these helped you navigate the publishing landscape? And do you have any advice that you would give to authors that are considering joining a collaborative book?
Well, I think you and I both think it's a win-win, because we've been in a couple of anthologies together, and then we've been in, like you said, we've been in ones with other individuals. I think if you want to write, but you're not sure about it, and you feel terrified to write a whole book by yourself, an anthology is a wonderful way, because it allows whatever the subject is that you want to be a part of, it allows your voice to be heard there. It allows you to have what would be considered maybe an expertise on that subject, and you can use it as a calling card. It can get you into places to speak. I know I've got several anthologies in one of the coffee cafes here in town. She carries my children's books, but she carries a couple of the anthologies I'm in, and it's really wonderful to be able to have those for individuals that are coming into the coffee house. And it's nice to see the little Venmo ching, $20 comes in for one of the anthologies, but it's more about getting those books out there to individuals to inspire them. I would say that it's a win-win to do something like that, because you get your toes wet and you get to feel what it's like to be a part of a group. It's a whole different experience when you're a solo author and you're doing all of it yourself.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Is all
so fun.
It's and also just to draw on the experience of other more, authors, and you meet authors from around the world, which it was an exhilarating experience. You can almost get addicted to anthologies, and it really is a fun way for you to enter into the writing world and get to know a little bit more about it, because I think we've also seen people who's been in the collaborative books then go on to write their own solo books.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the other thing that's really cool about it, Bridgetti, is that it is sort of addictive when you find that group that is really like-minded. And I've never had any experience, and I don't think you have either, of anything negative. Everyone is very supportive of each other and very much celebrating one another and sharing. And it's just like this, it's a different kind of level of support. It's really absolutely wonderful to be in a world, if you want to call it, of folks like that everybody's kind of on the same path and wanting to see other people succeed, and they want themselves to succeed. And we share each other a lot of times, which is really great. So I think it's been a true blessing for both of us to have that experience, because there, like you said, there have been a lot of lows. I've had to walk away from a publisher. I had a publisher quit during COVID. I had a publisher die. It's been a very strange experience through all of it. And now I'm landed with Norns Triad Publications, and they've been absolutely wonderful. And it's a small house, but it's wonderful. We're all pretty connected, the authors, and very supportive of each other. We do buy each other's books. We do leave reviews. We do post about it. And it's very helpful to have that support with each other. And the publishers are very supportive of us and what we're doing. And, if I have something going on, they'll share it out, which is, you don't always have that with a very large publisher. And I just, no path is perfect, because we look at some of the greats, like we were talking about Dr. Seuss yesterday, where I was reading, and I think he had, and I could be wrong on this, 270 rejections, but I can't believe it would be that many, but back when he was getting published, but it was really a large amount. And we know J.K. Rowling had a very large amount of rejections before, she was finally found a small press that took her on. And I'm sure the other ones were very depressed that they didn't take her on after as huge as she became. And Dr. Seuss too. So the interesting thing about Dr. Seuss is he was part of the beginning reader series, and they loved what he was doing so much that he then employed some of his friends to write books, like the folks who wrote Berenstain Bears and some of the other books that are in that group of books for children, which is really cute. And the librarian told me yesterday, when Dr. Seuss was a child, his mother was a baker, I guess, and she made lots of pies and stuff. And so she would make up all these silly words, or see how many words that she could make up and things. And so that's where he learned all that. And what a blessing for his childhood to have that kind of memory and fun with his mom, and then turn around and share it with the entire world. He's one of my very favorite authors, especially for children, because kids love silly words. And
they do. They absolutely, I mean, the delight on their face when you share a silly word, they get absolutely giggled. Now, talking about Dr. Seuss and other authors who had hundreds of no's, lots of no's, I heard something very interesting the other day, and I thought, I'm going to adopt this. And they said, next, no really means next opportunity.
It does. It does. And we have to remember
one door closes and the other one opens. So don't always take the no to have a negative connotation. Don't let it drag you down. Move on to the next opportunity. So I want to just switch gears for a little bit here. You are also a certified special needs advocate and ambassador advocate for Autism Tennessee. How has your advocacy work influenced your writing, or the other way around?
I think it's been both. I think that it makes me more consciously aware of my writing. I'm working on, and I just haven't gotten them finished yet, but I'm working on some smaller individual type pocket size books, if you want to call them, for parents and individuals, that are looking at first-time diagnosis and how do you maneuver through that world. And I just remember how scary it was for me and how much I felt alone. And I think that when I've been able to do events for Autism Tennessee, they've always allowed me to have my books out for sale. And so that's really, I've been really grateful for that. So I've been able to bring that into the advocacy side of my life. And because my son, who is on the spectrum, inspired these stories and kind of the mission behind them, I guess I'd say. I have two kids on the spectrum. So, we've kind of tried to keep all of this as a family, and kind of a mission as a family. The girls, my daughters, they sing Sisters J, and so their music is more consciously aware music, we call it, and putting out positive music in the world about, breathing in, remembering who you are, that you are okay just the way you are, and that's what the books are talk about as well. And so I think it's been really amazing. And I've prayed a lot along the way, help me to bring all this together so that it
There's
all
a lot
can.
of synergy between everything, having known you as long as I have, and just watching you do all these different things, because you really, really are multi-talented, and you do things across a lot of platforms, but they all merge some way or the other. Like the one thing feeds off the other one, and I don't know how you manage all of this with 3 children, but you really, really do a lot of work. Now, how does being on shows like our show, the Writers Corner live show, help address authors' challenges? What would you say can being on live shows like these do for an author?
Well, I think it can do a lot because it gives us a platform to talk about these issues and challenges. And as you and I have gone along the way for almost 6 years, we ask our authors, we ask them questions like, are they traditionally published? Are they self-published? What are their writing tips? What has worked for them? What are their gold nuggets to give somebody, what would they say to their younger self? So we've asked these questions along the way. And I think these platforms like this, which we started in 2017, I got published, and you and I were wanting to do a show together. And I felt like God said, do a show about authors, because it allowed 30 minutes for an author to talk about their book, their journey, and their all the in-betweens. And you and I both, I think I've met one author in all that time who didn't really want to come on and talk about their book. Most people want to talk about their book because it is such a passion project for most people. And so I feel like that giving this platform or creating it has allowed a lot of authors to come and talk about what they're doing. Maybe they wouldn't have had that opportunity before, and also to share their journey, to encourage others who might be out there wanting to write. Now, since 2017, since we started this show, we've been through the pandemic, and that really did a number on everybody in the creative world, everybody everywhere. It doesn't matter what business in your life was happening. It affected all of us. But it did change the landscape for digital to become, and virtual to become, so much more of an advocate for us. But it is we have seen such a change in the writing world and authors and the saturation of it. So what Bridgetti and I both know is that you almost have to do so many more things in order to get traction or sales or your books out there in the world. So I've tried to use all the platforms or things that I'm, working on for a way to talk about the books or a way to get out there in the world with them. I've tried to be creative in that way and take advantage of that. But it's not always easy. But because the girls and I have done events where it's been an autism event, but I've had my books and can talk about it. And then my girls perform, and we've invited other artists with us. So we've done these at the libraries and other places. And it's been really nice to kind of bring all of that together. And so music and arts are very important. And what I've seen them do for my children, 2 of my children were nonverbal. One experienced significant trauma at 5. what I have seen music and arts do for my children and what I've seen them overcome and other children. I've literally watched a child with Tourette's start to sing a Taylor Swift song, and totally anything the child was dealing with was gone, and you would never know it. And this child's voice was so beautiful. He was 11 years old at the time I got to see him.
Oh my goodness, that must almost reduce you to tears, when you see something like that.
Yeah. So I know the power
goodness.
of music and arts, the power of the arts for any individual, even people who have no voice, people who are terribly shy, people who cannot process. It's amazing what it can do for an individual.
So I do want to touch a little bit on how you got into cover to cover, your own podcast. But do you have one or two tips that you could share for any children's authors that want to make their stories more inclusive?
Yes. First of all, if you want to write for children, you need to go be with children. If you don't have any children, you need to go be with them to get that feeling of that atmosphere and that energy and what it is to be a child. I've never wanted to write down to children. I want to write as if I am the child speaking. I think that's very, very important to children. And I think that is super important, but I think it's also, pick the group that you want to write for. If you want to write something that's geared toward bullying or geared toward girls or geared toward boys or geared toward Down syndrome or adoptive children, then you need to do your research. Usually people who write in those genres and avenues and niches have that going on in their life, or somebody in their life who has that going on. So I would say, don't give up. And I would say, do your research. And I would say, keep writing. Even if you don't get published or get accepted or any of those things, just keep going until you get accepted, because it does take practice, and research is so important. Absolutely have to research,
Very, very good tip. So you've expanded to also doing your own show called Cover to Cover. How has that helped you to further empower and support authors and readers?
Well, that show started a year and a half ago or more with a PR company, actually, who was writing some reviews for my daughter's music. And so the owner of that company, Cyrus Rhodes, said, "Hey, I want a book podcast for my company. Would you do it?" And I was like, I don't know, because we were doing our show and I hadn't even considered ever doing another book show. So I tried it, put my feet in the water. It took me a while to really say yes, probably about 6 months. And I decided to just give it a try. And it's interesting because sometimes Bridgetti and I can interview the same authors, and then sometimes we have our own authors, and then we share the authors so that they get another platform to be on, which is wonderful. And so that's really grown my, I guess, catalog of authors, which is really wonderful, because I work with some other publicists that are fantastic, who the authors they send me. And it's allowed me to make connections with individuals that I would never have met had I not been doing the show. And that's one of the things that keeps me going, besides the fact of loving to interview folks, loving to share their stories, the inspirations, the hardships, the journeys, and just sharing books with people, because there's so many avid readers out there. But now the show, I've gone on Brushwood Media Network, which is syndicated radio, and that has given me a very large opportunity for a larger audience to share these stories. And it's kind of neat because I get emails from individuals saying, "Hey, I was listening to your show Saturday. I really like that author." And the authors, we've been doing book giveaways. And so they're like, "I want that book." So it's kind of neat to...
That is fantastic. Mary, sorry, we're out of time. We could talk for another hour and then some.
I know.
So thank you very much for sharing, some more of yourself on the show today to our viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for joining us today. You were watching the Writers' Corner live show, brought to you by BSN, your all-in-one entertainment revolution, as seen on Roku, Amazon Fire, Google TV, and Apple TV. Until next time, take care, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Writers' Corner live show. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us on the Writer's Corner live show. 30 minutes of insightful author conversations with some of the biggest names in the industry, including award-winning authors and international indie sensations. Join us on the next episode of the Writer's Corner live show.